Hey there, Mark Sanderson here, also known as Scriptcat. I want to invite you to my new seminar, Staying in the Game, Surviving as a Working Screenwriter in Hollywood, sponsored by Film Courage. It's going to be 2 hours of me offering up my tips, tricks, tactics, and disciplines that can actually help you establish your own screenwriting career. Now we're going to have a Q&A to follow and also a chance to get my new book. That's September 25th, Tuesday night from 7 to 9 p.m. in North Hollywood. Hope to see you there.
What about advice to writers that have been fired off a project?
Well, there's a firing, and then there's sort of like, we're going to go with someone else, which is a firing. It's not quite as like, you're fired. It's always, thank you very much, and now we're going to have this other writer finish it, and then you share credit. What I would say to them is learn from what happened on that with that particular producer, and not make those mistakes again. Or maybe they're not as good of a writer as they thought they were. So they were able to get in with the script, but they weren't able to stay on it, which I think is important, to stay through the end. Luckily, on most of my projects, I've stayed through the end, and sometimes even been on the set doing rewrites because the director wanted me there. I had that relationship with the key members. But you want to stay through the whole thing. You don't want to be the person that leaves. If you're leaving because you have another job and you can't do it, that's different. But if you're leaving because they don't want you anymore, then you probably won't work with that producer again.
What if it's a combination of that and politics? And you know that, let's suppose there's a little bird in your ear letting you know that, they brought someone else on and that person's worked with that other person before.
Sure.
So and you know that, and you just have to kind of swallow your pride and not.
Well, that happened to me when I was working on the game show. I was told, this is early, one of my first professional jobs, I was told that I didn't have enough experience to do during production experience. And I went through the development of 6 weeks of writing the show, and then they shoot the show. But during that point, I was let go, and they said, "Oh, we're bringing in somebody." It was someone who had a connection in the writer's room, and I thought, "Well, I went through the whole writing. I don't understand." But it was just strange how, and I was let go, and I was like, "Okay, I understand," but it was hard to be let go, because I had taken that job and I had quit my restaurant career, so-called, as a waiter, and that was my first professional job, and then to lose it. That's why in the book I say how I was fired from my first professional job.
At Christmas, right?
At Christmas time, but it happens. And then you're not guaranteed anything. The hardest thing that I had to learn when I first started getting paid to write was that I thought everything I wrote would get made. Of course it would be. Well, I have probably 5 projects sitting on a shelf that are production ready. I was paid for all the drafts and nothing. Myriad of reasons, because marketplace changes, economics, their buyers decided to go with a different genre, the actor bowed out and they want, financing fell through, all things that were not my problem. I'm just the writer, right? But that was the hardest thing. But it's not hard anymore. I realized the realities of the business, that not, but that was the hardest thing. I thought everything I wrote would be made. I thought that when I wrote my specs, of course, obviously too. Every spec you write is going to sell, right? But to be let go of a job, you have to learn why. It's a learning experience. You don't want too many. You don't want that to happen too many times, because then the word will get around and you won't work. But know your producers and what they want. And so luckily the producers I work with, I know kind of now after working for so long what they want, and that's what they want. They want to have to leave you alone. They have to be, is he going to turn in the thing? And because we got people waiting and a lot of money. They don't want to have to worry about that. But you have to build into that. So a writer that gets in somehow, luck, maybe whatever, sells the script, but doesn't have that ability to see it through to the end. That's a terrible thing, because you think, oh, I've sold it now, and you're not staying on it because you can't do the rewrites. I'm sorry, but we need to take this into production and we need to get through development. And if you can't do it, we will find someone who can.
How was Christmas that year?
It was okay, not great, because I was without a job, And,
well, not only that, sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
you were leaving one world
oh yeah,
to go to this world that you'd been waiting for.
yes.
And it's Christmas.
I got through Christmas, and
How was New Year's?
it was fine because a few months later, my spec was optioned.
Oh, okay.
So I was, you know, I rose from the ashes like a phoenix, you know. So I was like, didn't have to go back to the restaurant, and vowed, and I never did. So that you know, that's my point about having multiple projects or things. If I had nothing else, then I would be out knocking on doors, going, you know. But that, if you charted the course before that first job, that spec was constantly trying to find its way, and finally ended up with the proper timing, the right home with a company that said, we want to make this. So, yeah.